I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get completely blindsided like this, but here we are. My name's Jake, and I was with Emma for about 3 years. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I always thought we were solid. She's the kind of girl who's smart, charismatic, beautiful, everything I thought I wanted. I mean, she could be bitchy sometimes, yeah, but that was just her attitude. I never suspected she'd actually cheat on me, especially not right after I lost my job. Yeah, that's right. I was laid off about 2 months ago. It hit me hard. I was the main breadwinner, or at least I thought I was, and suddenly I was scrambling just to keep things afloat. Emma, she didn't exactly step up to the plate. She was supportive at first, but I could tell she was getting restless, maybe even annoyed that I wasn't pulling my weight or some bullshit. I hated feeling useless, especially when I'd always been the guy who kept everything together. I started noticing little things. She'd come home late, smelling different, like she'd been out drinking or with some guy. She'd get defensive when I'd ask questions. Act like I was crazy. I'd catch her sneaking around her phone, texting someone. She'd quickly hide it whenever I got close. I brushed it off, told myself I was just paranoid. We still had sex, I guess, but it felt different. It felt like she was just going through the motions. The spark was fading, but I didn't want to believe she'd do something so stupid. I was already crushed enough losing my job, and now the girl I thought I knew was slipping away from me. Then came the night I'll never forget. I was supposed to meet her after work like usual, but she ghosted me. No texts, no calls. I tried calling her, even drove by her place, but she wasn't there. That's when I decided to check her social media just to see if she'd posted something or if I could find out what was really going on. And what I saw honestly made my stomach turn. There was a picture, Emma, smiling all over some guy, but not just smiling, they were close. The caption was something like, "Finally found my happiness," and tagged her and some guy I'd never seen before. My heart just sank. I stared at it for what felt like forever, trying to process that she was actually cheating on me. I felt this mix of rage, heartbreak, and pure disbelief. How could she do this right after I'd hit rock bottom myself? It felt like a punch in the gut, knowing I'd been so blind, so in love, and yet she'd been cheating the entire time. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about everything, her lies, the late nights, the secret texts. I wanted to confront her right then, but I knew I needed a plan. I needed to catch her in the act or get some solid proof before I said a word. I couldn't just accuse her without evidence. That's when I decided I'd follow her, or maybe even install a hidden camera if I had to. I was desperate. I felt betrayed on every level, and honestly, I didn't know how I was supposed to trust anyone again after this. The next few days were a nightmare. I kept trying to keep my head straight, but every time I saw her or heard her voice, I felt this mixture of anger and sadness boiling inside. Me, I'd never been the jealous type, but knowing she was out there sleeping with some guy behind my back, that was a different level of betrayal. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind. It was like I'd given her everything, and she repaid me with lies and sex with someone else. I decided I needed to find out where she was and who she was with. I started following her on her phone, tracking her location via her social media updates. One night she told me she was going out with her friends, but I knew better. I followed her quietly, keeping a safe distance, and what I saw made me feel sick. She went to some guy's house, some apartment downtown. I parked around the corner and watched her walk in with a bag of groceries, laughing. I couldn't believe she was with him, just like that, so casually. My mind was spinning, and I felt this intense urge to confront her right then, but I knew I had to be smart about it. The next day, I texted her, pretending I wanted to talk. She called me back, bitchy. As always. "What do you want, Jake? Can't you see I'm busy?" I kept it cool, told her I wanted to meet and talk face to face. She agreed, but her tone made it clear she didn't think she owed me anything. I had no idea how she could be so dismissive of what we had, like I was nothing more than some guy she was settling for while she fucked around behind my back. When we finally met, I looked her right in the eyes and laid everything out. I told her I knew she'd been cheating, that I'd seen the pictures, the texts, everything. Her face twisted into something bitter, like she was annoyed I found out, like I was some inconvenient obstacle. "You're overreacting," she snapped. "It's not a big deal, we're just having sex. It's not like I broke up with you." That's when she started spinning her lies. She said she loved me, but she needed something more, that I'd been distant ever since the layoff and she was just trying to find happiness. She kept insisting she was sorry, but her eyes weren't sorry, they were annoyed, like I was ruining her. Fun, I couldn't believe how easily she lied. She acted like she'd done nothing wrong, like I was the one overreacting, but I knew better. I could see it in her eyes, she was guilty and she didn't care. The betrayal cut deep. I felt so many things all at once, anger, sadness, betrayal, and a strange sense of relief that I finally knew the truth. Still, I was furious. How could she be so callous, so indifferent to what she'd done? How could she sit there and lie to my face like that? It felt like my world was crumbling around me, and I didn't even know where to start picking up the pieces. That night I couldn't sleep. The image of her with him haunted me, and I kept replaying everything she'd said, everything she'd denied. My mind raced with questions. How long had this been going on? How many nights had she been with him instead of me? I kept thinking about how she'd told me she loved me, and yet she was out there, cheating, lying, betraying everything we'd built. I felt so broken, so lost, and I knew then that I couldn't just sweep this under the rug. I had to decide what to do, but honestly I was too numb to make a clear choice. All I knew was that my trust was gone, shattered into a million pieces, and I was left standing there, wondering if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. The days that followed were a blur. I stayed in that state of shock, trying to process what I'd just uncovered. Every time I thought about her, Emma, I'd feel this burning anger mixed with deep sadness. How could she be so callous? How could she lie so effortlessly? I kept replaying her words during that confrontation, her dismissive tone, her coldness. It was like I was talking to a stranger, someone I didn't even recognize anymore. I started to think about revenge, honestly. Not the childish kind, but something that would make her feel the pain she'd inflicted on me, the kind of pain I was feeling times 10. I didn't want her to get away with thinking she could just cheat, lie, and then walk away like she hadn't done anything wrong. I needed to do something, but I also knew I had to be smart about it. I was about to become some fool chasing after her or her new guy. I wanted her to understand that she'd crossed a line, and I wanted her to regret it. One afternoon, I decided to dig even deeper. I installed a hidden camera in the apartment. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed hard proof. I set it up in the living room, pointed at the sofa where I'd caught her and him in the act. I wanted to catch her in the act again, maybe get some footage of her saying something I could use against her later. Honestly, I felt a mixture of shame and resolve. I didn't want her to think she could do this to me and get away with it without consequences. The first night I checked the footage, I was stunned. There she was, lying on the sofa, wrapped in his arms, kissing him. I watched her inhale his neck and whisper something. I couldn't hear the words, but her body language screamed betrayal. Then they started having sex right there on her living room couch. Watching that footage made my blood boil, and I knew I had to act. I couldn't keep pretending that this was just some mistake or misunderstanding. It was real and it was raw. I'd been played for a fool for months. I decided to confront her again, but this time I was going to do it with the proof. I called her that night, told her I knew everything. Her voice was defensive, bitchy even. "You're crazy, Jake. You're making stuff up. How do you know all this?" I played her the footage over the phone. Silence. Then she started stammering, trying to deny it, acting like I was the one losing my mind. But I was calm, cold even. I told her I didn't care about her excuses anymore, that I'd seen enough to know how much she'd betrayed me. Her reaction. She yelled, called me names, said I was being paranoid, that she still loved me and this was all just a misunderstanding. Typical. She kept insisting she never meant for it to go this far, that she was just confused, and that it was nothing serious. I told her if she truly loved me, she'd end things with him and stop lying. But I knew she wouldn't. Emma was good at lying. Good at twisting everything to her advantage. I could see right through her. That night I felt a strange sense of clarity, even as I was drowning in pain. I realized I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. I couldn't keep wasting my energy trying to salvage a relationship built on lies. I started thinking about what I really wanted, whether I should fight for her or just cut my losses and walk away. Deep down, I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, not after what I saw. That trust was broken, shattered beyond repair. But the question was, how do I even move forward from this? How do I rebuild my life when everything I thought I knew about her, about us, has been turned upside down? I spent the next few days just trying to breathe, trying to decide what was best for me. I knew I'd have to face her eventually, but right now I was just trying to process everything. The betrayal cut so deep I wasn't sure I'd ever fully heal. But I also knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. Not with her lies, not with her false apologies. I deserved better than that. And somehow I'd find a way to move past this, even if it meant starting all over. The confrontation with Emma finally happened a few days later, and honestly I wasn't sure I was ready for it. But I knew I couldn't keep avoiding her forever. I had all the evidence I needed, and I was determined to get some answers. No more lies, no more bullshit. I told her to come over, that I needed to talk face to face. When she arrived, her usual bitchy attitude was front and center, but I could see the nervous flicker in her eyes, like she knew she was cornered. I didn't waste time. I pulled out my phone, played the footage of her and that guy from her apartment, and watched her face drain of color. She stammered and tried to deny it again, but I wasn't having any of it. I told her she had no more lies to tell me, that I'd seen everything I needed to see. Her excuse. She said I was too focused on losing my job, that I wasn't giving her enough attention, and that she just slipped up. She claimed it was a mistake and that she still loved me. Yeah, right, I could see right through her bullshit. She started crying, trying to make me feel guilty, saying she was sorry, that she was weak, and that she didn't want to lose me. But honestly, it just made me angrier. I looked at her and said, "You don't get to play the victim now. You cheated, Emma. You lied. You went behind my back and had sex with some guy while I was struggling and feeling worthless. And you think a sorry will fix that?" Her tears dried up a bit, but she still kept lying, insisting she didn't mean for it to happen, that she was just confused, and that she was trying to find herself. I couldn't take her bullshit anymore. I told her I was done, that I deserved someone who respected me, someone who wouldn't fucking cheat and lie and pretend they loved me when they clearly didn't. I told her I didn't want to see her again, that I wanted her out of my life. She begged for a while, tried to manipulate me into giving her another chance, but I was finished. All I felt was this cold, hollow ache inside, like everything I'd believed in, everything I'd fought for, was now just dust. I knew I'd never be able to trust her again, not after seeing those videos, not after hearing her lie to my face. That night, I stayed up all night, going over everything. I felt this crushing sense of loss, but also this strange sense of relief that I finally knew the truth. It was like a weight had been lifted, even if it came with the pain of breaking up with someone I thought I loved. I kept telling myself that I'd be okay, that I'd find someone better, someone who actually deserved my trust. But in the quiet moments, I'd still wonder how she could be so bitchy, so manipulative. How she could lie so effortlessly and then cry crocodile tears when she got caught. It made me question everything about her, about us, and about trusting anyone again. Honestly, I felt like I was just walking through a fog of confusion and heartbreak. But at the same time, I knew I had to do this for myself. I couldn't keep living in her shadow, waiting for the next lie or the next betrayal. I had to rebuild my life piece by piece from the wreckage she left behind. And as much as it hurts right now, I know I'll get there. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. I just need to keep moving forward, even if it means trusting myself more than anyone else from now on. The days after Emma left felt like a long, empty stretch. I stayed in the apartment, staring at the walls and trying to breathe through the pain. Everything was different now. The place that once felt like home seemed cold and hollow without her presence. I kept replaying everything, her lies, the sex, her bitchy attitude when she tried to deny it all. It was a constant reminder of how easily she had betrayed me, how she'd lied right to my face. I felt a mix of rage and despair, not knowing how to even start putting the pieces back together. I knew I needed to do something, to reclaim some sense of control. So I decided to focus on myself. I got rid of all her stuff, packed her things into boxes, and left them outside my door. It was a small act, but it felt like reclaiming a part of my life, taking back what was mine. I also cut off contact, blocked her on everything, phone, social media. I didn't want to see her, didn't want to even know where she was or what she was doing. I had to cut the cord if I was ever going to heal. Meanwhile, I started seeing a counselor. At first, I was hesitant. I hate the idea of talking about my feelings and showing vulnerability, but I knew I had to face this head-on. The betrayal had hit me hard, and I was carrying so much pain, anger, and confusion. The counselor helped me unpack some of that, and honestly, it was the first time I felt like I was moving forward in a while. I realized that my trust had been shattered, but I also had to learn to rebuild it, first with myself, then maybe with others someday. I also threw myself into work and some hobbies I'd neglected. I started going to the gym, just to clear my head, and even picked up some old interests like playing guitar and reading. It wasn't about pretending I was fine. It was about giving myself a break, allowing myself to heal at my own pace. But underneath everything, I still felt this gnawing emptiness, like I'd lost a part of myself, and I wasn't sure I'd ever get it back. One thing that hit me hard was realizing how bitchy Emma had always been when she was caught or cornered. She'd lie and lie, convinced she could get away with it. That part of her, so manipulative and selfish, made me see just how toxic that relationship was. I started to understand that her attitude wasn't just her personality. It was her way of controlling everything, and I'd been too blind to see it. That realization made me feel a little stronger, like I was finally waking up from a bad dream. But even with all this effort, the pain lingered. Some nights I'd lie awake wondering if I'd ever trust again. I'd think about the future and question whether I'd find someone who wouldn't hurt me like she did. The betrayal had rocked my foundation, and I was scared I'd always be cautious, always guarded. Still, I told myself I wouldn't let her ruin me entirely. I owed that much to myself, to heal, to learn, and to eventually move on. The road ahead looked long and uncertain, but I knew I had to keep walking it. I couldn't let her betrayal define me, even if it scarred me for now. I had to find a way to rebuild that trust within myself, one step at a time. Looking back now, I realize that this whole experience changed me more than I ever expected. Betrayal like that, especially from someone you loved so much, it leaves scars, deep ones that you think will never fade. But what's strange is that, over time, those scars start to fade and you start to see things clearer. I learned a lot about trust, about manipulation, and about how strong I can be even when I feel broken. Emma's betrayal was a punch to the gut, but it also became a catalyst for me to finally wake up and take control of my life again. I'll admit that some days are still tough. Certain moments, certain memories, still hit me like a sucker punch. But I've come to accept that not every trust can be restored, and that's okay. Not everyone deserves your honesty or your love, and sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away from what's broken, no matter how much it hurts. I've learned to rely on myself more, to value what I have, and to remember that my worth isn't defined by someone else's lies. The truth is, I now see relationships differently. I'm more cautious, more aware of red flags, and more determined to protect myself. But I'm also more open to genuine connection, things I had shut out because I was so blinded by love. Losing Emma was a brutal lesson, but it was also a wake-up call. I don't regret what happened because it pushed me to grow. It forced me to understand that trust isn't just given freely. It's earned, and sometimes it has to be rebuilt after it's been broken. So, if there's one thing I want to tell anyone reading this, who's going through something similar or fears they might, is that you won't always see the good in yourself when you're hurting the most. But you're stronger than you think. You can survive betrayal, and even if it feels like your world is crashing down, you'll find a way to pick up the pieces. Time does. Heal, and eventually you'll start to see the light again. It's not easy and it's not quick, but trust me, you'll come out the other side, wiser, tougher, and more aware of what you deserve. And for those who have been betrayed, remember this. Your worth isn't tied to someone else's lies. Never let anyone make you feel like you're less than you are. You're worth love, loyalty, and honesty. Keep moving forward, even if it's one small step at a time. The pain will fade, and someday you'll look back and see that you survived. You're still here, and that's what matters.